and good evening. This is Barbara Mcbean with Inspire Me 360, and I have an absolutely inspiring guest on the show with us this evening. Her name is Satkirin, and this is just going to be such a delight to hear about all of the light and beauty that she has brought to planet Earth. Just an incredible human being. She is dedicated to expanding the consciousness of all of us here on the planet, and a really remarkable story that we're going to touch on tonight. Her amazing journey. She has studied psychology, graduate of the arts as well. Again, she has been a recording artist from the 1990s, making beautiful motivational mantra meditations. And we're just going to jump right into this interview and let you tell us a little bit more about your journey. So I'm just going to start there. If you can give us a little background of how you ended up where you are today, and your path into becoming all that you have become.
That's not asking too much, is it? It's great to see you. Thank you very much, Barbara. I really appreciate being here with you today, and Jessie Permar. It's really a privilege. I would say that in my life, I never, ever, ever expected that I would be who I am today, and that's God's grace. It has definitely been a journey of the soul in my life that's given me just an opening to have to have talents that are just kind of undercover, right? So all of us are born with tremendous potential. All of us are born with so many talents and gifts, but we don't necessarily get invested in them. Maybe not by our parents, maybe not by ourselves, but in this human body, we have something very special, which is physical body.
Yes.
We have a mind, and then there comes something that's very, very much not in play for most of us, which is we have that spiritual self. And I don't think I ever really understood the power of meditation until I started doing Kundalini Yoga in 1970. And my journey through Kundalini Yoga just opened up the door of something that was already there for me. I think everybody has like many, many, many potentials and many possibilities in life. But when you get on a certain track, it's a track of looking inside of yourself. And I know that's kind of a really nebulous, it's like, how do you look inside of yourself? I don't know. I think there has to be a level of grace. And I would say that the grace in my life has been through the practice of Kundalini Yoga.
So for those, not to interrupt you, but for those guests that, aren't aware of what Kundalini is, Kundalini energy or Kundalini Yoga, could you just take a brief moment and explain that?
Okay. All right. Briefly, that's pretty challenging. Well, Kundalini energy is energy that is your creativity. So we have an option of being totally absorbed in our physical needs. And if we're absorbed in our physical needs, whether they be, food, sex, I don't know, just all kinds of physical needs, then we're preoccupied. When you start meditating, and it's the meditation that I'm talking about is Kundalini Yoga meditation. It is a form of yoga. It is a yoga that's been around for thousands of years, and there's this creative energy that sits within every human being. And being able to access that energy is really a gift. But when you start doing the yoga of awareness, that's what we call Kundalini Yoga. It was brought to us in the West by Yogi Bhajan. It was a gift to be able to learn from him, to be mentored by him. And the teachings that we have is really related to coordinating the breath, but it's very specific.
Okay.
It's like your breath, my breath is our direct connection to that infinite self.
Okay. So it's kind of expanding what we are, almost our aura, into the greater quantum field, something like that, or
No, that's too external.
that's too external. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I would say that when you're born in, okay, every living thing is alive because it vibrates at a frequency that gives it life.
Yes.
And for the human being is the most advanced point of creation. But if we can connect with the infinite consciousness, I mean, this is the basic message of Kundalini Yoga is very similar to the Sikh message, which was given by Guru Nanak, which is that the creator, what is the creator? Is, everybody's looking outside, but the creator is within us because we have a breath.
Right.
And that breath is our direct connection with infinity. So when we start practicing pranayama, for example, Kundalini Yoga has evolved, but in this day and age, we're so overwrought with tension, with overload of information, of, this heaviness that's in our planet, because we hardly can relax at all. We're constantly bombarded. And, if people are bombarded, they don't take the time to know who they are, where they're going. And it's so simple, just to breathe, just to take the time to breathe and to have a longing and a focus to connect that breath with the infinite intelligence that brought us to this life.
I love
And
it.
yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna keep talking. Please stop me.
No, it's very cool because I'm learning as well. I mean, I know before we got on the live feed, we were both talking about being in the role of a teacher. And of course, I own colleges, I teach all the time, different curriculum than you're used to teaching. I mean, you have this beautiful, worldview. And what I'm teaching is more in the materialistic view. It's, beauty, it's cosmetics. But again, you need both sides of that duality. I think sometimes that contrast is also how the creator or how creation comes to know itself, is through this three-dimensional body we're living in, right?
Yeah, okay, that's pretty wise. Yes, it's, I guess, I guess it's like if you do the work, if you and I as human, it's like we eat food, right?
Yes.
So why do we eat food? We eat food because we need the energy, we need the nourishment, we need, we need to eat food. But it's so simple. How much time do you spend on nurturing and feeding the spiritual part of yourself? And I think this is,
Yeah, in this day and age, not too many people focus on it. They might read a lot about it, they might watch, podcasts about it, but they're not very often quiet with themselves. So if you, somebody that's listening to this or somebody that's watching, how many, would it be minutes, would it be 30 minutes, an hour, like how long would you actually need to invest in this practice of just letting go and silence and breathing to make this transition or to find this piece? How did it work for you, I guess?
okay, well, it was a very it was a very gradual process, if you can imagine. It's been 53 years, and so it's not, you're not on the clock. How can you be on the clock? Everybody develops in their awareness at the pace that they have the ability or the gift of time to do it. So I would say if you could just sit for, say, 5, 7 minutes. This isn't the answer to everything. This is just a step in the right direction. If you were to sit for 7 minutes, let's say, and you could just breathe through your nose, and if you could just close your eyes and just relax as much as you can, most of the time there's bzz, 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 bzz going on in the brain, right? Never stops. But if you can just inhale, counting, like say you have a rhythm, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you inhale for 5 counts. You hold your breath for 5 counts. You exhale for 5 counts. And then you get the effect of slowing your breath down. When you slow your breath down, then you can physiologically relax. Your mind will still be busy because this is the funny thing about meditation, is somebody says to me, well, I try to meditate every morning or every night, but all these thoughts come into my mind. What's wrong with me? I said, well, that's what meditation is. It's becoming aware that you're just filled with thoughts and doubts and concerns, and they're all there. But when you start meditating, you become aware of it, and that's fine. It's good.
It's good. Yeah. It's part of our programming, being in this human suit that we get to experience, that feedback loop in our head. I mean, I've often, thought about it, and really it's fascinating to me because, some people call it the ego or whatever is up there in our heads. But I often think of it as this beautiful feedback loop that gets to kind of be the commentator of my life. So I've found that I've made friends with it, and I like to ask it for advice, and sometimes it calms me down, sometimes it hypes me up, but it's entertaining nonetheless.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. It is a tool of self-reliance, because when you slow your breath down, and when 5, 7 minutes isn't really long enough, it's just a beginning. But when you start practicing it, then you can expand it. You can open up and opportunities are going to come. But one of the incredible things that I'm constantly teaching, because I'm teaching singing, the sound current, a sacred sound current that opens up your awareness to wisdom. So that's
very cool.
Is like letting that wisdom open up and talk to you, like you just said.
Well, and it's so fascinating because people, with the introduction of YouTube and the fact that we have this global network now where so much information can be shared so readily, I think people are starting to open up to the idea that everything is just a frequency at its very fundamental levels, right? We are just this universal song singing in this synchronicity that we call life, right? Now, and again, I mean, I always love that understanding of what we are. Now, the other thing that always comes to mind when I'm thinking about, the yogic traditions and specifically Kundalini are the chakras. Is that something that you work with? Does that come into play with this vibrational energy you're talking about? Or is there any kind of wisdom you can share with us about that?
Sure. It's really, it's more than you can imagine. When I was in college, I took a class in comparative religions. I've always been very interested in religious study. And when we did Eastern religions, it was like, nirvana, yes, enlightenment, that's what I want. And it was just like, it made no sense to me at all. So it's like, that is not where we're going at all. When you just said to me, what did you just say? Tell me again.
You mean in terms of the frequencies or in terms of the chakras?
Okay, chakras, that's what we were talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have these different centers of consciousness. We have chakras, and Kundalini Yoga strengthens the nervous system. It balances the chakras, like we have a third eye, we have a throat chakra, we have a heart chakra, we have a navel center, we have the sex organs, and we have the Muladhara, which is the anal sphincter, which is the bottom chakra. But the part that I'm teaching is so amazing because it's all about going up. It's all about, so the third eye is a chakra, but where we go with the sound current that we're working with is going into the 10th gate. When a newborn comes out of the womb, you have that that area of the skull that's, it's been compressed. There's still space there. It has to close. And when it closes, then it's like, I think when infants are born, they have infinite consciousness.
100%. I so agree. They're just innocent and they're just unconditional love. And absolutely, they're still aware of that part of themselves.
I think they're aware of, they have a spiritual consciousness, and relating to the physical world, it's so daunting. My granddaughter was just born 2 months ago, and it's just like, when my grandson was born 2 years ago, I kept saying, you know what? He's in shock because he's back in the physical body and everything. He's trying to figure everything out. I said, just understand that, So what we're doing with the mantra meditation, or what I'm focusing on, is the highest point of the Kundalini yoga is going into that 10th gate. And that 10th gate is an energy center. So we're opening up. In order to get there, you have to have a certain level of balance and openness. And that takes time, it takes work. It's been a few years for me. But then the human has the ability to open up to infinite consciousness and awareness. But it is very specific. It's not that like, boom, my Kundalini rose and now I'm a self-realized human being. No, it's not like that. There's a responsibility, and it takes practice. It takes repetition. You eat every day, you eliminate every day, you want to love, you want to, express what it is to be a human being. So you have to work at expressing what it is to practice consciousness and spirituality.
And it's a balance. It's a balance of, I guess when you go through this process, opening up to that universal consciousness, but also being able to ground yourself within a body. And in a way, that's humbling. It's humbling in the sense that you can go so high, but you still have to come back. And
yeah, well, that's very well said, Barbara. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know much about your meditative practice, but what you said makes sense to me. Totally. Totally. If my teacher always said, well, you've got 24 hours in the day. So if you dedicate 10% of your day to developing your spiritual consciousness, then you've given 10%. And that 10% could be an hour and a half in the morning, an hour and a half in the evening, or nothing at all. But if you're really going to do the work, you have, well, what I'm teaching is, and I'm not exclusively teaching this. This is basically in the teachings of Kundalini Yoga, according to Yogi Bhajan, which is that we have a spiritual lifestyle. So you do certain things every day to keep yourself conscious, aware. And consciousness is really, really important, because everything you say, everything you do has an impact. Absolutely. And you can blow it all the time, but you can also become aware of your actions, your words, and what you do, and practice being conscious.
And practice kind of taming the beast that is the mind. One of my favorite books, The Four Agreements. I don't know if you have read it, but likely yes. But just that what you were saying is really always being diligent to be aware of every thought that's popping into your head, and what we were talking about frequency earlier. What is the frequency of that thought? Anything that's a loving, compassionate, warm thought is going to be on a very high frequency. And anything that's, on that lower plane that's maybe judging somebody or frustrated at the guy that cut you off in traffic, again, that's going to kind of bring you down into the, I think, lower, more primal centers of your chakra. Is that correct? Or
not really. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I did read that book. It is a flow of energy, and within that flow, you you have, okay, one thing that I think a lot of people are not willing to admit, especially I don't know, I'm at a different place because I have so many generations behind me now that I can watch. And there's, I guess is it the millennials? I'm not sure.
The millennials, yes, yes, absolutely.
Like, I'm so entitled, and it's just like it's all about me, and is that the millennials in your experience?
Well, you know what? So again, in a lot of the college situations we have sort of like this weird, I don't know, almost split. So we have a lot of young people that, are entitled, and they maybe your first impression of them is that, but actually behind it, when you peel back that layer and you sit down with them, they're just really insecure. And I think what a lot of that insecurity comes from, and you would probably agree with me on this, is that parents are not connected, families are not connected. A lot of the generational lines have been broken, so we don't have that interconnectedness that I think in the past we've had, that grounded young people and gave them a beautiful base to bloom from. So what we have is a bunch of young people, millennials, even sort of your 40s, where they have no root set in the ground. And so they're just grasping. They're trying to figure out their own way from the media, from, all of this kind of hyper automation of the world. But it's made them very insecure. So all they can do is put up a very superficial front to try to protect themselves. I think it's a protection mechanism. And when you kind of get behind it, you see there's a lot of work that we need to do as human beings to resubstantiate our roots, not only as a species and a human family, but to go forward and grow into the latter part of this century together, essentially.
Yeah, it's when you talk about the mind and the thoughts, we can have 1,000 thoughts at the blink of the eye, and which thought do you choose? So usually people are pretty they're pretty outwardly directed, and they haven't practiced, or yoga is very popular these days, mindfulness, yoga, so many different kinds of yoga. But I think the essential teaching that I'm relating to is that there is a God within, that we have an infinite self, and that infinite self is definitely a caliber of, it's not a caliber that we can create. It's a gift that's given to us. And if we have that realization, or at least that longing and that humility, then we have a chance. If you're constantly thinking, I'm the doer, I'm doing everything, then, you're going to fall on your face. And I think the reason why I mentioned millennials was because, what I'm finding and maybe it's not millennials at all, but it's like when people say, you cause me stress, you cause me pain, I shouldn't have to go through this. And it's just like, yes, you have to go through challenges. You have to, it's like when a baby goes through the womb, sure, everyone can have a cesarean and just pick the baby out. But that first entry into this life it's a microcosm of what life is. It's constant pressure. And that pressure is something that we want you to have so that you can, it's not that I want you to have pain in your life, believe me, but it is to accept the challenges in your life as opportunities rather than I'm, rather than I've been ruined or I've been abused. It's not like that at all. It's like, okay, it's an opportunity. The pressure is what's going to give you a passageway to go through it and come out stronger, victorious. It's all in how much you take it on as a punishment versus as an opportunity. Find your pathway through that challenge.
Well, it's the contrast. It's the contrast that also allows us as individual souls to understand what we do want. Because if it was just completely easy all the time, we really wouldn't know what we like. We would all just be, dancing around in a field with no real wisdom, right? And so that contrast sort of molds us. And then we really have this, I think, very clear understanding, or what that suffering brings to us is this clear understanding of who we are, because we know, really what doesn't fit for us. And it's individualized, right? Everybody's going to have certain things that they carry with them, or the contrast for them. And one being might say, oh, I love that. I love going, mountain climbing and being on, really big high buildings. And that's great for me. And another person might say, that's terrible. That's terrible contrast for myself. I don't want that at all. So, and again, I think it's also, when you talk about the creator, it's a different vantage point through each of our incarnations for the creator to know itself, more fully through the contrast and through, the beautiful development of our lives as well.
Nicely said. Very nicely said.
Just an idea, but I'm similar, that I'm always trying to figure it out. And I did study psychology as well in university, and always found it fascinating. But it just seemed to me, and I guess I'll ask you the question too, that it just seemed like it was lacking a little bit. It was just a little bit too materialistic.
Oh yeah, totally. It's like psychology made no sense to me. It's just like, oh, come on. But it is the stamp of the creator. It's not about religion. It's about spirituality, and spirituality is acknowledging that each one of us has a very, very, very beautiful stamp of infinity. We contain it if we can develop it, and also practice seeing that around us, so we can live with a practice of gratitude. I think that's really, really important, to be grateful for this breath, to be grateful for this life, to be grateful for, you and I, here we are. It's like I think we have so much in the way of gifts in our life, but you can look at it and say, oh, I don't appreciate this. And if that's what your MO is, the way you receive the gift of this life, then you're never really going to be very happy or content or fulfilled, and, be purposeful, and at least have that contract with yourself. And just say, I can be grateful for my life, and just keep going on that track, and allowing the realizations to come, and allowing the gifts to come, and just to turn off that negative mind. And that's what we're doing when we meditate on this sound current. The mantras that I'm teaching are balancing. It's not every mantra under the sun, believe me. I am specifically teaching the mantras that have a balance of what they call the Naad. So the sound current and the words that we're reciting actually have an impact on the hypothalamus and the pituitary. You're not hypnotizing yourself. I think some people are very apprehensive. They don't want to recite these words because they think, maybe it's black magic, or maybe it's some religious hex or something like that. But it actually is, and there's been many studies done where the actual the neurons of the brain are vibrating at a frequency that allow this awareness of your own self, of your own infinity. It allows it, and it. So you're not turning off your mind. You're not turning off your thoughts. You're just navigating through them. And that's like, I think, a really important picture to hold. There's nothing wrong with your ego if it serves you.
Yeah.
If it's just messing you up, usually egos are messing people up, which is why we don't, we think of an ego being negative. But if we can navigate through that constant bombardment or the self-judgment or all those things, it's called a self-exalted experience. This is one of my albums. It's called, what's it called? It's called Lightness of Being. And so I recorded all these different mantras. Some of them are actually in English.
Oh,
So you
that's so
can understand what they say, what we're singing. And it is about, in this day and age, you can go around in a cloud, a dark, dark cloud of misery. But what everybody really needs is an immediate, just to be able to exalt their thinking in a moment.
yeah.
And yeah, I think that's why you and I like to teach.
Absolutely. It's a toolkit. Like,
Yes.
I,
Yeah.
it doesn't, and I love the fact that you brought up religion, earlier. And because I think sometimes people get stuck in this box of, I can only have, this isolated religious thinking. And therefore anybody that's thinking outside of this is evil or bad or trying to attack, right? And I think the next frontier of human development is that we're going to create this synergistic revolution around the planet where we realize that each religion has a piece of the toolkit that we can impart into our lives and begin to embody to bring. And I mean, enlightenment is a wonderful world, but for a lot of people, a lot of just, people that are on the ground level, that's a scary word. Well, what's enlightenment? What does that mean? Or what does it mean to, to get in touch with this part of yourself? And it also feels often, I think, very untouchable for people because they just don't, understand,
No,
right?
you can't be enlightened. I mean, you can be enlightened. This is the way I see it. And I've been wanting to kind of get to this point, Barbara. Good that you brought that up.
I'm glad.
When I meditate, at the end of the meditation, I can feel exalted. I can feel very enlightened. I can feel very satisfied, very good. I can also feel really crappy because I brought up whatever I brought up and it's just getting cleared. It's like the toxins are coming up. But it's that when you get into, why do we have to repeat over and over again every day? Can't we just be enlightened and stay there? No, you can't. You have to, this is something you have to do daily because it's a clearing, it's a balancing. And like I said, if you want to be a great dancer or a good musician, you practice. You have to practice. And if you don't practice, your gift goes away. We also age, so I don't want to go there, but it is it is a constant thing that when you're a human being, you start out and we don't live forever. And if we were enlightened all the time, we wouldn't be in this world. But we are in the material world, and this is the beauty of what I love about the spiritual path that I'm on, is that, okay, I can junk out and eat junk food, but I'm not going to feel good. And, if I can go shopping and I can be, very materialistic, but I also counterbalance it, not necessarily intentionally, but there is a balance in my life because I do dedicate every day. I have meditations that I do every day. And those meditations to me are a process of elevating myself, making myself more aware, bringing myself out of my small, confined, everyday life into the bigger realm. So that this is what I think is really the amazing part of the time that we're in now as human beings, is that human beings have done so much damage to the planet, and it's not getting any better. I mean, come on, you'd be fooling yourself to think it is. But as we become more conscious of our actions and reactions and what we do and how what we do has a reaction, that we can start balancing out. So, if you like, if you binge on chocolate cake or whatever, you binge on anything, um, you throw yourself off balance. But can you put yourself back into balance?
Yeah. I've always thought of it, because again, especially coming in as a young person into the age of media, and really having global warming and just planetary pollution and all of these different things at a very young age. I was always trying to figure out, like, how do we fix this? How do we fix this? This is very overwhelming, like warning signs going off. And as I've aged, I've almost come to this realization that maybe it's kind of like God gave us Earth kind of like our bedroom, and we've kind of like kept our bedroom really messy, and we're not putting things away, we're not putting our clothes away, not making our bed. But as we're growing as a human species, we're starting to realize that, yeah, maybe it's time that we start to clean up our bedroom, and maybe it's time that we start taking responsibility for ourselves. And so I always feel super hopeful that we are dawning on an age of amazing technological advances and a lot of global, I think just the fact that everyone really knows what's going on. And I think a lot of the young people are super passionate about really making a huge difference. And that's something that I see, when I meet with a lot of older business people that are, I guess a lot of businessmen, to be honest, because a lot of men have dominated business for so long. What they think about so much is just the money, the aspect, what are our quarterly quotas. And then, you'll meet with some of these younger entrepreneurs that are in their 20s and 30s, and it's crazy. They have a totally different mindset. They want to build companies to change the world. And I find that so inspiring. It's not just so much about the almighty dollar as I think it has been maybe in the 60s, 70s, 80s, when people were just totally on that materialistic train. I think it's a bit more, I don't know, I feel a positive energy that
Good.
is
I feel that as well. I feel that as well. And I hear what you're saying, but it's power is so corrupting and money is so corrupting. So I don't really want to go there because everybody knows that. It's like, who wants to be famous? To me, it's like TikTok and I use Instagram. I mean, Instagram is just a tool that I use to share the possible avenues of meditation, because it's what's going on. But I guess what I'm finding is that at some point that power, sex, and money is going to destroy anybody. It doesn't matter who you are. So
I think if people utilize it in the wrong way, I mean, I think that there's some beautiful examples like Gandhi, for example, that, they were famous, or that an individual that was famous for just their beautiful energy and their soul and what they brought to others. And then there's people that are just famous for doing nothing particularly useful, like taking selfies of themselves. And I think that, or somebody like Oprah Winfrey, where she's dedicated her life to really opening up dialogue and changing. So the right thing.
There's I was watching on Netflix, because I love to watch historical fiction. I love to see movies where people have challenges and they deal with them. That to me is like, so there was a series on Netflix that I thought was really kind of exemplary. It's called, I hope you don't mind me saying this, it's called Live to Lead.
Oh,
Live
that's
to
cool.
Lead. And have you watched it?
I haven't. No, I haven't. So explain a little bit about it.
It's Prince Harry and Meghan are our hosts. And they do, I don't know, there's 8 or 10 interviews or little historical overviews of certain individuals on the planet, human beings who've done extraordinary things, not that they're miracle makers, but who have just lived to serve. They start out with, what's her name? The Chief Justice, not the Chief Justice, but she's the one that created Roe versus Wade. Did I say it right? Wade versus Roe. Um, the first woman judge on the Supreme Court.
Yeah. And I know who you're thinking about, but I can't think of her name either. Yes.
Okay. Anyway, so yes, it's, I mean, this particular woman, oh God, I wish I could remember her name. Sorry. Anyway, I watched all the interviews with her, and she's the one who defended her first most successful case was a father whose wife died and left him with an infant, maybe an infant or 2 children. And she defended him in court that he should get child support and aid, not because he was a woman without a husband and had children, but because he was a parent.
Yes. Yes.
And but her style of communication was not confrontational. It was well thought out. It was very low key and very kind, low key even. Who were we talking? Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. And I've seen her documentary.
Yeah, the second one was that young woman, Thurman. I know she's a Swedish girl who started what at 13 years old, defending. You know, she sailed a boat to go to some UN conference because she's fighting. I mean, this phenomenal. That was the second one. See, now I don't remember her name either, but I was hoping you'd jump in. The third one was, I guess, a Black attorney. I don't know, there were all these South African this Black attorney who looked at all the men on men and women on death row and defended them so that they wouldn't have to be executed because they were unjustly accused. And then there was the South African athletes, and I mean, it just goes on, and then the South American athletes, and I mean, just all these examples of people who went way beyond their personal comfort and their personal, you know, some of these people who were the athletes were probably quite well-to-do and maybe even millionaires, right? And they just stopped to make sure that that whatever goodness or that they had in their lives, that they could share that in a very large way at their own expense. So anyway, that was that was live to lead, and it's like, well, what I say, you know, that's a good orientation in life.
Yeah. And I love the way you put that is, you know, one's orientation is orienting yourself towards, you know, the direction of, I mean, righteousness is a big word, maybe too wordy, but a right path, right? You know, so everything you're doing, every act, every word, every interaction with others, just making it as beautiful as you are capable in the moment. And I think that's all any of us can really ever hope to do or be, because we're never the same consciousness, we're never the same embodiment in any given moment than we were, you know, previous moments before. But if we can always strive to our best in that moment, I think that's, you know, a life well lived.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you. But in order to do that, it's just like, in order to be able to accomplish that, you have to have some kind of foundation in your life, some kind of discipline that's going to allow you to feel fulfilled, to feel, it's getting back to how can you give if you don't take care of yourself? How can you be, okay, this is the spiritual path that I wanted to mention here. And the spiritual path is that you can't leave the world. You can't go live in a cave. You can't just dedicate yourself and be enlightened all the time and just, you have to, nowadays, we have to live in this world. We have to find a balance within our own self so that we nurture ourselves, so that we can have the spiritual bank account to be able to care for ourselves, to care for our family, and also to have enough to give. And I'm not saying that, I think service to humanity is definitely a point that we agree on. But at the same time, it's like you have to really make sure that you are stable and that you have enough support within your own self and your own life that you can give that. And so there is definitely an adjustment. It's an adjustment of the ego, the adjustment of the mind. And that's where meditation comes in.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's a tool. It's just a tool that's it's more than mindfulness, because I hear what you're saying is, yes, being very mindful, but it's also building up your capacity to be able to see neutrally your own self, to put yourself in the position of being able to navigate your own life, and that you have enough gratitude and enough support from your own life and your own life practice that you can also give and love that you're giving. I mean, that's another thing. It's just like, I feel like that the Judeo-Christian, a lot of the basis of that was self-sacrifice. And I think it has to go beyond that. You're going to sacrifice your ego, you're going to sacrifice your selfishness. I mean, there's different ways of sacrificing, but it's like nurturing yourself and having the tools to be able to have a balance in your mind, a balance in your day-to-day lifestyle, that you can just just be always be able to bring yourself through the challenge. And that challenges are tools to remind you that we still have to navigate our mind. And our mind is there, ego's there, but the mind is what throws us off course. So when we're chanting mantra, if I could just finish this thought.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful.
When we're chanting the mantra that I mean, it's not that I'm teaching it, nobody else is teaching it. It's part of this whole spiritual pathway, that these mantras are specifically calibrated to bring that balance within the psyche, open up the 10th gate, so that you're not constantly walking around in samadhi, but you're walking around in the world. You're walking around in the world as a human being and being able to understand what your role and your position is. It's not like, oh, what's my life purpose and who am I and what I'm supposed to be. It's not that. It's just something much more simple and much more not so much in the head, but just to be able to come to that calm center where we can see clearly and uplift ourselves. And that's where the teacher comes in, because you and I understand that helping people, teaching them, uplifting them, giving them tools and a toolkit is really very fulfilling, isn't it?
Absolutely. The more joy you can bring, joy and peace kind of combined. Because again, there's so much anxiety, depression, uncertainty in the world. So, and again, I don't understand meditation in the sense that I've never specifically meditated. I will put on like some really cool music that's, there's no words and it's kind of like a high frequency music on YouTube, and I will zen out, I guess is what I call it. I don't I go to a place of kind of peace and calm and I shut my mind off. But I've never really specifically thought, oh, okay, I'm meditating. I'm just disconnecting and not really analyzing my thoughts and just letting them bounce around in my head. And for me, that helps to reduce the anxiety when I'm not judging the thoughts. I'm just allowing them to flow. But I think, again, in a way, that's sort of what you're talking about with the meditative practice and the music. And, what you teach is much more, you've honed those skills. You've put decades into understanding the craft of what meditation is. So of course, again, it's what you've dedicated your life to that practice. And I think it is so powerful to be able to share, that wisdom with, all of the generations, young and old, because there's people like my grandma, she just passed away a few months ago, but she was not in a state of peace. And if she could have taken something like this to calm herself down and, just gotten out of her head a little bit, I think it would have been such a powerful tool for her. But even in her later stages of life, she didn't have that in her toolkit to be able to just find the peace, find the center. And again, I think the more that you can share that, your gift and your life story with the world, how powerful, just even that peace will be for so many people. I know you already do that, but just, interviews like this, it's sharing it, with as wide an audience as possible, so that, even if, 60 people that are listening out of the 400,000 or whatever that are hearing us tonight, if they start going down that path to take up the practice of meditation, that's a win. That's a score. That's to me, a beautiful thing in terms of raising the vibration of humanity.
True. Very well said. Okay.
And so just so that we're on track, we have about 9 minutes left before I know that everything is, we're done everything this evening. Now, is there anything else that you really wanted to talk about this evening? Things that you feel like you just have to teach, you just want to share your heart with the listeners and viewers? I'll kind of put that in your court.
I think that when I see how misconstrued humanity is becoming, it's like, go back to basics, simplify your life. And I was listening to this radio show where the doctors were saying, the American tragedy is that there's so much obesity amongst children. And I'm thinking, well, what are they eating? They're probably eating very highly processed foods. Get back to basics. Eat simply. Eat fresh fruits, eat fresh vegetables. Start there and, get into understanding that if you can help yourself, that each one of us has the opportunity or the ability to be a teacher, a guide. And it's not telling people what to do, just that when you see somebody who is in distress, if you can just sit with them for a moment and just say, okay, slow your breath down. Breathe deeply. And give yourself a moment to understand that you are okay and that the breath that you breathe is what connects you with the human balance. Just balance yourself out. You can share this so that helping another person can be just as simple as, asking somebody, do you need some help?
Yeah, just that loving attention, and loving attention, but paying attention. And I think,
yes, yeah, because you don't want to insert yourself, or just be, not at all, but just to feel that each one of us, if we can start practicing that capacity to come back into the heart center, and it is through the breath. So whether you take a Kundalini yoga class or you sing a happy song, let your love just flow along. That's one of the songs we sing.
Do you wanna share, or would you feel comfortable sharing a little bit of a song?
Well, the one that we always end yoga class with is an old Shaker melody. It's not the melody, it's the words. And we always put our palms together at the heart center because our right hemisphere and our left hemisphere when we bring it to the center of our heart, we're balancing the left and the right. And when we breathe, we sing, may the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. Guide your way on. Guide your way on. Sat Nam. That's it. That's
Beautiful. Oh, I love it. I love it. It's so simple, and it's so wonderful that it really can be or could be that simple as just connecting to something that's so innate to all of us, just that inward, outward expansion.
Sing it for yourself. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you. You sing it for yourself. We sing this 3 times, once for ourselves, once for those near and dear, and then once for everybody and anybody. So
Wonderful.
yeah. So thank you, Barbara. It's lovely to meet you. You really personify a lot of what I'm trying to say.
Well, you know what? I always feel like, just with all things in the universe, people come together when when they have a similar message or a similar path that they're kind of embarking upon, right? And I always feel like, souls meet for a reason, and it's just been, again, such a pleasure for me to be able to share a little bit of your story with the viewers and the listeners tonight. And I know, from talking with Jessie, there's just so many things that you have done to heal others, to bring a beautiful message of hope, phenomenal musical talent, and just, so much of your own uniqueness and beautiful energy that you have graced so many with. So, from the bottom of my heart, oh, there we go. A little bit of
my timer. We've got 2 minutes.
Oh, there we go. That's your time. And it's lovely to be right on time. But just thank you so much for everything that you do to help others, because you know what? Not everybody takes their life force and their gifts and extends it in such a way that you have your entire life. So that's, a beautiful tribute to everything that you are as a human being and a soul. So thank you for that. And again, thank you so much for being part of this episode tonight, and many blessings. And I wish you a beautiful week.
Okay. And I want to thank Jessie for making this possible. So God bless you, Barbara. Thank you again. And lots of love to everybody out there. I've got a couple of websites, so if you ever want to visit me, I'm there for you.
Did you want to mention what the websites are, just in case?
Yeah. It's Naad Academy. Naad Academy is spelled Naad. I was just looking for the chat button, but I don't really see the chat. Naad Academy is, so you can go to SATKIRN.com, which is my website, and then Naad Academy is the professional site that I'm teaching through. And once again, it's not my personal teachings, it's just the gift that I've been given that, you know, that embodies this spiritual practice of Kundalini Yoga and the scriptures, the scriptures that contain all the mantras that are in Naad that bring the balance to the psyche and to the soul of the human being. So it is a human science. It's not any particular religion, although it may look that way. And it is something that George Bernard, the scripture that we use is called the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib. George Bernard Shaw, who is a great philosopher and author, just said once upon a time, I don't know when, but he said that if to avert a third world war, if the human beings could at least read the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib, which is the scripture of the Sikhs, that they would find balance and they would find peace, and we could avert a third world war. So God bless us all, right?
No, absolutely. And just in case any of the viewers or listeners wanted to hear your music, are you on YouTube? Is there any way that they could hear some?
Yeah, I'm Satkirin Khalsa. I'm on Spotify, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Pandora. I have 22 albums. So I think my music is pretty well distributed through iTunes, through, you know, through all the normal. So just look me up, Satkirin Khalsa, you know.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much and have a wonderful evening. We're going to sign off tonight, guys. But again, many blessings to everybody out there. And thank you again.
Okay, take care. Be well. God bless you all. Bye.